Well, 2020 Democratic frontrunner Joe Biden has been under fire for a string of gaffes made on the campaign trail, most recently receiving heavy criticism after failing to accurately tell a story about his encounter with a war hero. Now the former VP's on the defense.
The details are irrelevant in terms of decision-making, and so the fact that I would forget that it was Rodriguez who was pinning, I believe this is the case, pinning a Bronze Star on a young man, it's irrelevant to the point. It's like saying, I had this very bright reporter, and I think her eyes were blue. What difference would it make about whether you were a bright reporter? Your eyes are brown. It's irrelevant, and you know it.
Dana, when you're explaining or losing, and don't details matter if you're running for president?
Look, so it's a long time. If you're Joe Biden, that's a long time to be the front runner. To be hanging out there as a front runner for 18 months, that seems a little bit hard. Nobody can lay a glove on him so far, really, in the polls. He's consistently been able to stay up there.
Because he keeps laying gloves on himself.
Yes. No, Bernie Sanders actually literally did that last week. I don't know if you saw that. It was very good. I thought the more devastating thing is not the gaffes. I think that Democratic voters who like Joe Biden, they don't care. Yeah. They think that's ridiculous. They're not worried about it. And what Biden did there a little bit is he walked right up to the line of calling it fake news and pushing back on the media coverage. I'm sure he's frustrated with the media. I thought the bigger problem for the Biden campaign was the big piece in the New York Times yesterday or Sunday by Mark Leibovich and asking him, what is your rationale to be president? And really, it's not sharp. It's not there. It's basically like, well, somebody's got to beat Trump. And I think that African-American voters who love him are going to stick with him. That is going to be something that is going to be solid. That's not going to end. And you can imagine that the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren supporters are like, what are we going to do? Elizabeth Warren is polling at 1% with African-American voters. So there is a big reckoning to come. I don't think it will come for a few months. But the fact that he can't actually nail down his answer for why he wants to be president, except for somebody has to beat Trump, that doesn't feel like it's good enough to me.
I'll build on what you said, Dana. He went on to say that Romney, if Romney was running or Biden was or Jeb was president, he might not have run.
Right.
So then he said, I'm the only one electable. I'm doing it for the party, right? Barack Obama said, Joe, you don't have to do this. And then today he comes out and says, I think 8 or 10 of the other Democrats can beat Trump. So he just undid his own argument. Yeah. And what I think is most damning is two things. He was in charge of paying out the stimulus package, and he was in charge of the pullout of Iraq. And if you read Mattis's book today, he talks about interacting with Biden, trying to explain the problems if you pull out the way he wants to, and allow al-Maliki to steal that election. And he just basically gave him lip service and did it anyway. And we know we got ISIS in return. That's what a President Biden would do.
I'd like to build on that as well, Brian.
That's all I can ask.
Because he gets the details wrong and he gets the decisions wrong. Because Robert Gates, who's Defense Secretary, Republican and Democrat administrations, says Joe Biden has been wrong on every single foreign policy decision in the last 40 years. If you think about it, he was against Reagan's push against the Soviets during the Cold War. He was against Desert Storm. He was against the surge. He was against the bin Laden raid. He was for regime change in Libya. And, for NAFTA. You could add all these things up. So when you combine the gaffes, the poor decisions, the age, and the sleepiness on the trail, it is a very nasty mix of negatives that is going to drag him down. And the only reason he's up right now is because Warren and Sanders are splitting the left-wing vote, and he's got great name ID. But other than that, I think he's the weakest frontrunner I've ever seen, and he might lose Iowa and New Hampshire, and that leaves him with the
South Carolina. Yeah,
that leaves him with whose strategy was that? Rudy's. We all remember how that went.
His was Florida.
I think you're being kind in terms of the biology of it. He's only 9 months older than I am. But
wait, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
Okay.
But there are, thank you.
You look great, by the way.
Yeah.
You do.
I agree.
I couldn't tell.
It's the hair. When he misses the beat, it really seems organic to me. It doesn't seem like he's going to get sharper going forward. He doesn't seem to me that this is just the warming up, that he's going to get in there and he's going to be more articulate, more confident in his presentation, more eloquent, more, presidential in a sense. He seems tentative to me, as if and the people that are around him, like they hope he doesn't break And
it's not rust.
And
Trump is the one. Trump
rust.
wants to make sure he doesn't break, because I think Trump wants him to be his opponent.
Yeah, Brian, the argument with Joe Biden as being the front runner is that he's strong, that he's the one who has this in the bag. But when it comes down to going against the Trump campaign juggernaut, and Joe Biden clearly not really wanting it, considering he's saying that he, maybe wouldn't be in it if it wasn't President Trump. His wife having a hard time selling his plan, saying, his plan might not be the best one. He might not be the best candidate, but you should elect him to beat Donald Trump. Is he really going to be able to keep up when it comes to him taking campaign stops off of his schedule right now, when he's not even really in a hard battle for the front right now?
Wait until next week's debate. I mean, that's the third. Every time he goes into a debate, a non-scripted situation, it is a carnival of faux pas. So we can't wait
we'll also
to see what happens.
if one of the other opponents go after him. Like, does Elizabeth Warren attack him? And it's not going to be because he's a gaffe machine. It will be because of something like his coziness with the credit card industry.
And China, too.
But if he loses New Hampshire and Iowa, what happens?
Well, that's the question. Is he going to lose that momentum at the front? But the benefit for him is that Elizabeth Warren and Kamala Harris aren't doing well in the early states either.
And Bernie Sanders will lose both as well.
Right. So he's still in a good position.